Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Where do you come from? We're going to start a few minutes earlier than we normally do. Boy, I don't ever use a microphone. I don't know how to do this. We're going to start a few minutes earlier than normal because we have a new day today, a new system, and of course then we have our speaker for the day. Actually sitting down here and staring up at you, if I can paraphrase the American singer Bertie Higgins, I'd like to measure my happiness, but I have nothing I can compare it to. Because I've never seen a Creative Mornings with this kind of crowd before. So I really appreciate it, I really thank you, and it's all because of Jon. My name is Michael Fall. I'm the Dean of Bangkok University International, but for you, I'm just going to be the new Dr. Vincent. We are going to be running the Creative Mornings through Bangkok University International from now on, and so these mornings will be brought to you by our undergraduate program, which means for the people who usually come to this event, the people from the industry, I'd like for you to look at your left. I don't know if that's me or not. Look to your left, look to your right, look around you. You are smack dab in the middle of our undergraduate enthusiasm. And when we talk about being creative and being the creative university, you're staring at the future of Thailand's creative input. So I'm very pleased to see all of them, and I hope that you can have a chance to interact with them throughout the rest of the morning. Jon will be speaking for about 20-30 minutes today. We'll open the session to question and answers after that. And of course, feel free to mingle around and hang out around BU if you choose to. I thought it was going to rain about 30 minutes ago, so I'm really happy to see all the sunshine. I also want to make sure that we thank the sponsors who bring us this, our Obonpan, who feed us almost today. Yes, thank you very much. Donuts are high quality. All this stuff is good. We also have our friends at MailChimp, and I'd also like to thank the staff that put this together for me. Staff in the singular, which is Ajahn Sai. Ajahn Sai, are you here? This is Ajahn Sai. This would not be here if it wasn't for her. Thank you, Ajahn Sai. Somehow she was scaling these sheer walls to hang our signs yesterday when I arrived, so she's going above and beyond. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to this first event, if this is your first event, and for returning folks, I think we've got another great day in store for you. I also want to put out a pitch. Next month we have a bit of a tricky subject. The tricky subject is death, and I am looking for speakers in terms of transformation, renewal, growth from, things like that. So if you have issues or friends who might be able to help with this, please see me afterwards. Otherwise, I'm going to turn our attention to Jon. This is a really cool speaker for me. This is something different for our students to see. This is an entrepreneur. This is someone who embodies several of the last Creative Morning elements. I think of compassion right away when I think of crowdsourcing or crowdfunding and finding people's passions. This is a man who's built a business on the ideas of others, the idea of his idea to build ideas with others to create bigger ideas. And I think that's the essence of what Creative Mornings is for me. I'm going to let him provide any information on his background because he knows it better than I do. But his companies, Asiola and the concert company. Yes, Wonderfruit. They operate at the nexus of several different levels of Thai society, several different levels of culture, and I think this is going to be a really interesting, insightful talk. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up our guest speaker. Thank you once again for coming, and Jon, I really appreciate your being here.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for everyone for coming out. I know it's super early, at least it's really early for us. But you know, with everyone here, I just want to get an understanding of who's an undergrad here. If you can raise your hands. Okay. And people from the industry? Okay, wow, that's awesome. Now, it's really good to see a good turnout, and I hope that I can present and show you some good concepts of what we're doing. But also, if for your entrepreneurs and people out there thinking about starting new ideas, I hope I can share my experience and inspire you guys to do something on your own. Oops. So a little background on myself. We run a couple companies at our office. One of them is Aziola. Aziola is a crowdfunding platform. Does everyone know what crowdfunding is? No one? Okay, one or two people. I will explain it later on in the presentation. Our other business that we run is a festival called Wonderfruit. Does anyone know what Wonderfruit is? Okay, a few more people. Cool. I will explain what Wonderfruit is too. So, you know, why these two businesses? I think when we call ourselves a startup floor, by the way. The balloons are meant to say startup floor, but we're a little disorganized to a certain extent. We have these two businesses because we are about promoting and debuting new ideas. We're about supporting new ideas. And we view crowdfunding as a model to be able to support and also necessarily fund the ideas to go through. With the festival space, we see it very similar in the extent that it's a place to debut new ideas and creativity that we can showcase for the country. What we're seeing, and one of the reasons why we started to get in this space was we saw a melting pot of ideas, and it really carried through across multiple industries. We're talking about startups in tech. You know, every day we're seeing new festivals come out, or concerts, or new events that are happening. We're seeing creativity in a lot of the arts fields, and even I think you guys can see with F&B and restaurants, there's no shortage of different ideas. And we're seeing people that are super connected. With a population of 68 million, we're seeing a 91% mobile penetration rate. Smartphone penetration's roughly about 70%. And actually, a few years ago, this was only at 35%. People are spending a lot of time on Facebook, 2.5 hours per day. People are downloading games. There's just a ton of activity. And it's no surprise. And you know, one of the real popping figures that came out from the Hootsuite guys and We Are Social. Whoops. Sorry about that. Yeah. Thailand is number 9 in active Facebook users in the world. When we look at Bangkok, it's the number 1 city for Facebook active Facebook users, which is staggering. But it's no surprise because the way we build, develop, and distribute content here is staggering. In 2015, there were 494 million photo uploads from Thailand alone, which is number 1 in the world. I'm sure you guys seen the list from either BK Mag or Coconuts that CM Paragon continues to make the top 10 placements of most photographed. I know Terminal 21 also has. It really goes lengths to show the amount of content that's being produced at a large scale. And we've seen startups rise. You know, when I first started my gaming startup, that was about 6 years ago, and there was only a handful of startups actually here. You know, even 2 years ago, or 3 years ago in 2014, Bangkok Post reports 300 startups that were here. And even last year, you can see the growth. We went from 300 startups in the past 3 years to 6,000 plus. It's staggering, and it's only beginning. But what about funding? You have all these startups, where do you get the money from? And we're seeing more investment come in from angels, from VCs, from PE funds. But is that really enough, right? And what happens to everyone else? what happens to musicians? What happens to artists? What happens to creative thinkers? What happens to NGOs, community-driven guys? Specifically events, how do you get sponsorships? Or even traditional businesses that are bricks and mortar and retail. And a lot of these thoughts is saying, oh yeah, we're getting all these new investments, we're getting new funds to support these ideas. But what if you're a startup that doesn't have access to this? So we wanted to look at it, and one of our major partners is KBank. And I think one number that really stuck out was they said 70 to 90% of bank loans get rejected. If you don't go for a bank, and actually 20 to 25% of millennials don't even think of a bank as a funding option for their idea, where do you go, right? And we found that fundraising on all different levels across all different verticals is super, super difficult. So we wanted to level the playing field. We wanted to give access to people who have really good ideas, but don't have access to funding. And that's why we started Aziola. So one of the reasons was that we looked at crowdfunding as the natural model to do this. Crowdfunding, by definition, it's the practice of funding a project or venture by raising many small amounts of money from a large number of people, typically via the internet. For most of you guys who don't know what crowdfunding is, there's basic fundamental elements towards a crowdfunding campaign. One of the big things is that you have to have a target, you have to have a goal set in mind. Within that goal, if the idea reaches its goal, and this is contributions coming from people, the idea goes through. But if the contributions don't reach its goal, meaning don't pass 100%, the idea doesn't go through. And everything is linked towards time. I think time with crowdfunding is the biggest incentive towards having people not only push, but be a part of individual ideas and getting things started. We are in something called reward-based funding. And the way it works is that if you're a supporter, you hear about a certain idea, whether it's you want to create the next iPhone or open the next restaurant, or be a part of the next big idea, you have the community come and be involved with what you're doing. So they believe in your idea. They say, yes, I want to be a part of it. And they purchase what we know as rewards by supporting, and that ultimately helps you fund or get to part of your goal. So how would that work like? What are you buying? There's a lot of different things you can strategize and put in crowdfunding campaigns, from merchandise to services or experiences. We had a campaign with Titanium, who did a VIP club tour where they take them out to bars with unlimited drinking for 10,000 baht. We had one-of-a-kind artwork from Alex Face, to individual houses that you could buy for people, to paintings and experiences. I think you can do whatever, but it's a way to incentivize people to be a part of various ideas. And with the way we look at crowdfunding or being part of ideas, and why crowdfunding is so important, is that it includes everyone. It's no longer the days where you have to have money to be a part of something. If you have 100 baht, you can be able to support. If you have 100,000 or 1 million baht that you want to support, you can do that too. And we believe in the democratization of fundraising. So everyone is included and everyone is a part of these individual ideas. There's 3 models to crowdfunding, and just more on the business side. Right now, reward-based is the only available model that's in Thailand. We're first in line for equity that's launching next year, but that is actually a license that's given from the SEC, so they haven't opened it up just yet. And there's lend-based crowdfunding, which is basically microloans from multiple people to lend out in certain projects, which is illegal in Thailand. So right now, the only model that exists is reward-based, and that's really an interesting model to play with. I think when we look at crowdfunding, the way we look at it is that it opens up so many different opportunities, both creatively and impact-wise. We love the fact that you can democratize fundraising by being able to give people a chance. and let their idea be heard. What does that mean? We really believe that this model can impact Thailand, not just on the creative level, but also on the impact level. We believe and have done community-driven projects. We've helped entrepreneurs. We've done a lot of work with artists. And we've seen firsthand how this can do good. We've also seen how it can be used. I think one of the most unique things about crowdfunding is the level of involvement from all different sides. So you could be that guy off the street that says, I have an idea. I'm really not sure if it will work, but I want to test it within the space. Crowdfunding allows you to do that because you don't necessarily have to invest the money to move forward in it. And you let the community decide, right? Or you could be the event organizer. At Wonderfruit, and I'll get into that, sponsorship is the main source of revenue. And being able to find alternative revenues is always something interesting for us to identify and find. Crowdfunding works that way. Or you could be the person with a startup, with people in the industry that want to raise their next round, or you want to move into an individual round and get funding this way. And this is where the different models play in. So we love it because it takes the people first approach, right? It flips traditional fundraising on its head and allows you, the community, to decide whether ideas should live or should not live. We always joke around about the unicorn thought. In the tech space, everyone talks about being the next unicorn or following the next trend. We don't believe in that. With crowdfunding, we say you should follow what you're passionate about. Like, ideas should live within you. You shouldn't follow what the next big thing is or what makes the most money. Follow what you love. And that's the beauty of this, is because if you showcase your passion and what you love to do, people will follow. Okay, so some examples. Talking a little bit too much about the model, you're saying, what exactly is it, right? We just recently did a campaign on the BTS. I'm sure everyone takes the BTS, and typically you see ads across the BTS running with skin whitening cream or like mobile phones, and ads are right directly in your face. We wanted to get rid of that. So we came up with an idea, because these ads are constantly always in your face, to get rid of them. So we worked with Kamin Chai Prasert. He's a fairly famous artist. He showed in the Guggenheim. He has a museum up north in Chiang Mai. He's very big on spirituality and abstract art. And we worked with him to say, okay, what can we do with the BTS? We put a crowdfunding campaign out there that asked people to help us get rid of ads. It raised 2.6 million within 20-something days, around that, right? It skyrocketed. Some people liked what he did, some people didn't like what he did, but people stood for the concept of believing in doing things differently. You don't necessarily look at BTS as a place to have an art gallery. You look at the BTS as obviously a way to commute, but you see these ads always in your face, and we wanted to get rid of it, and we wanted to put a smile on people's face and promote art in a different way. So that ran, and we actually saw a lot of different success with it. The other item that crowdfunding can be used for is doing things in need. Does everyone know what Nielson Hayes Library? Okay, cool. This was one of the projects that was dear to us, simply because we love old architecture. We believe in saving architecture in Thailand and doing whatever we can with it. This is where crowdfunding works really well, because when you look at this, the Nielson Hayes Library was about to shut down. They needed money not only to renovate, but keep the land alive. And they looked to us to activate all their fans and all the people that have been to the library all over the years. And they put this campaign out. They raised and went 156% of their goal within days, right? And it was amazing to see how much support they got. Now, the rewards they put were pretty much donation-based. You can get some subscriptions to the library. They had a cool thing where you can have your name on a shelf. You can go take a piece of the old floor. There's a lot of different ways they played with rewards. But I think the biggest thing about this was the fact that people felt that they could do something with them. And being able to save concepts like this, I think, is a very interesting fit to how this model works. The other one that we thought was pretty cool, Klung Toi, in the slums, there's a lot of kids that are less fortunate. We've got word that they started an orchestra as a creative outlet to stay out of trouble and do good things. We found that they never did a concert or did anything creative, and we wanted to give these kids a voice. We did a campaign with them. I think that's the great thing about crowdfunding. It's not just funding. Actually, funding is a side element to all these stories. It's about getting the word out and having people feel connected from day one about what you're trying to do. So this raised and went well over 100% super quick. People found acknowledgement of these kids forming an orchestra. We were able to put them in the first concert hall. And since then, they've done so many concerts from there on. So I think it's like these stepping stones of getting from one place, having people contribute in step one, and this actually takes you up to multiple different levels, which is amazing to see. The other one, still community-driven. We worked with YPO and Mae Fa Lung to help tackle Chiang Mai's haze issues. I don't know if you realized last year, the haze issues was at an all-time high. Sometimes you couldn't land planes in Chiang Mai airport. It got so bad because farmers were burning crops and not knowing the right procedure to do things, and it was obviously putting a ton of carbon in the air and doing a lot of bad things. So these two organizations worked and came to us and wanted to shed light on this topic, but also identify the funding, get the funding to be able to throw a series of workshops to teach actually not the farmers, but the kids of the farmers to start to educate the next generation and do something good. Hold. Okay, and we've done a ton of other projects. Look, everything from supporting creative arts to doing creative events to helping Thailand become a better place. But not everything was successful. I think with crowdfunding, there's the ones that go through and pass 100%, and there's the ones that don't. And the ones that don't, we say, that's okay. We embrace failure with our platform, and we don't even look at it as failure. If your idea doesn't work the first time, then try it again. You know with crowdfunding that you can always improve. And even if it's successful, there's ways that you can improve your idea. So we never want to look at it as an end game to what you're trying to do. An example of this is these kids came to us. They raised actually several hundreds of thousands of dollars doing crowdfunding campaigns on Kickstarter for beach shorts. But they wanted to tackle a problem here locally. They looked at the high school boys' shorts as too tight, too rigid. No one ever changed the design. So they worked with European tailors to have like a more kind of cut fit, like you move around while you're skating and you're playing basketball. And you know how they put out this really nice video and made it super artistic. I mean, we thought the idea was great. We thought it was solving a problem, but you know, I think one of these things is that when you're trying to change behavior, it becomes a very difficult thing, and maybe the high school kids weren't necessarily ready for Euro shorts yet. But you know, I think then that brings me to why ideas are more successful than others, and this is one constant question that's being asked to us. There's no direct answer, and there's no calculation to this. You know, we say, tell a good story, have purpose, launch at the right time, communicate well. But the biggest thing is challenging the norm, being different. There's so many ideas out there, and it's so saturated these days. And everyone's doing the same thing. We really promote getting yourselves out there and standing out and being different, which brings me to Wonderfruit. Wonderfruit is a 4-day arts and music festival. Actually, it's way more than a music festival. Most people think of it as a giant party, or maybe a party for hippies or celebrities. There's a lot of different perspectives on Wonderfruit, and that's probably one of our biggest challenges to get over that hurdle, and hopefully we'll get over that hurdle one day. But it's not a music festival. In fact, music is just one part of what we do. We carry through and support creative arts. We support entrepreneurs within the food and beverage game. We support talks and workshops, both creative and internationally. We do a ton of wellness activities, everything from yoga, meditation, to Reiki, to you name it. We support inclusion. So it's not just about you going out and partying on a Friday night. We have family-related activities. We have a camp that's called Camp Wonder. People can bring their kids for all different types of activities, kids yoga, kids cooking classes, all wrapped around a certain theme, which is sustainability. Now, when we first started Wonderfruit, it was actually one of these ideas that stemmed from sustainability, doing good, social responsibility within the environment. But earlier projects before that were never successful because people view doing good for the environment as necessarily a chore. It's not something that's built into the lifestyle. It's boring, especially here in Thailand, right? And it's hard to do. So how can we make that cool? How can we promote that doing good for the environment, being socially responsible for your actions, and conscious of what you do within your daily lifestyle? How can we get that through to everyone? Which is why Wonderfruit was created. Because everyone may think it's a party, or may come for the arts, or may come to see our individual speakers. But actually, the real concept behind it is doing good. And we wrap it in creative types of arts and activities that makes it fun for people. Take Jim Thompson's Molam bus. He redid an old bus, made it into a sustainable art gallery. We have Molam music. We promote Thai culture, but we do it in a creative way. And there's, across our land, which is about 90 rai worth of land, we have tons of camps and activities similar to this. So I think that brought us to a really interesting juxtaposition between having fun and social responsibility. It never went hand in hand. People would look at social responsibility as something that's on the serious side and fun on the other side. And one of our biggest goals was trying to bridge that. It's really about doing things differently. And I would say this with any type of idea you think about, any type of business you guys partake in the future. Differentiation is everything. And being able to support that and do cool things about that is everything as well. We have a ton of activities, 60 musicians, 45 workshops, 35 art installations, 50 plus food trucks. I think you kind of get the idea. But we really celebrate arts. We celebrate ideas. And that's something that we want to be known for. Has anyone actually been to Wonderfruit before? Okay, I know you guys. Really? Okay. Okay, so Wonderfruit, we pride ourselves on our architecture, and mainly because we use sustainable materials such as bamboo to use with our structures and our builds. And that's everything from actually a stage, which is made out of 17 rai worth of rice, which we eventually cooked after the festival. You can see the sharing neighborhood where we did a ton of workshops on the bottom left. The quarry, which is your late night venue for people who want to stay up late. And on the bottom right is actually what we call the Wonder Car. We crowdfunded this initiative. It's built out of bottle caps and recyclable bottle material. This was an interesting one because we were able to get funding for individual art pieces. And for you artists and creative people out there, it's certainly an avenue to do cool things. I think with whatever idea you do, it's important to back it up. We have zero plastics on site. We filtrate our own water. We enforce that everyone uses plant-based culinary ware. This is all things built into our culture and what we do and what we stand for. Or it could look like something like this, which is probably your typical festival environment. And we want to avoid that at all costs. Okay, what have we learned? The big thing about this is that we have learned that experiences matter. You know, J. Walter Thompson talks about how millennials would rather pay for an experience than a material item, and we couldn't agree more. And not just to millennials, we feel actually our whole entire Wonder Food audience actually values experience over anything. And we do too. One of the biggest things about Wonder Food, at least from a marketing side, is that we prioritize experience. We don't allow brands on site. What does that mean? You know, when you go to S2O, you go to Sonic, or you go to these other EDM festivals, or any type of festival, you'll probably see plastered with Pepsi, Heineken all over the board. We don't allow that. Even if we do have major sponsors from large corporations that are involved with what we do, we tell them you're not allowed to put your brand on site. And we tell them this for a specific reason, because we don't want to ruin the experience. And we feel that brands can break through and talk about things in different ways and through experiences. Case in point, Singha, right? They came, they wanted to throw their giant logos all over the place. We said, no, you can't do that. With every sponsor has individual areas are these camps. So we worked with our designers. We came up with a concept for them, which basically utilized their old beer crates, their old bottles as art installations, and made a chill-out beer garden area with a giant tent over it. It's probably one of our most popular spaces on site. And we don't put any branding, so no one knows at the point that Sing was part of this. But by providing a cool experience where people can enjoy themselves and they look back at the memories and say, this was a really damn cool place, ultimately leads to people actually finding out about this. And since then, you know, there's been a ton of earned media and social representation just because they did it this way. And, you know, that's probably one of the biggest things that we love to do, is to just challenge the different way of thought about doing things, and this carries through with marketing. Our other thought, and this is usually not a popular one in Thailand, is choosing names or artists that people don't know. Typically, most festivals go after the biggest names, which have the biggest followings, which guarantee the biggest amount of sales. We do the opposite. We want people to come for the experience, and not because there's a name there. Otherwise, you're chasing names every single year, and you don't come for Wonder Fruit. You come for the artist, right? We want to be positioned like TED like this. You know, I don't know if you guys know this, but the main TED conference doesn't release the lineup until one day before, but they sell out months before, just simply on the fact that it's TED. They trust the brand, people trust the brand, people understand that the experience and the content will be curated in a good way, and whatever speaker they bring, you know it's going to be quality. That's exactly what we want to do with Wonder Fruit. I mean, we could hire this guy and probably sell all our tickets in one day and be done with it, but we don't. And we value bringing names that people don't know, and we do it intentionally. Because we want people to come to Wonder Fruit to actually experience new things. see new people, do new activities, get outside of the box in terms of what your circle or understanding is, or what you think is a good party or a good talk, or how you should do things. We welcome and celebrate people getting out of that. So we have guys like this, we have the guys like the most famous artist, which he probably is not the most famous artist, and he does works where he bridges technology and artwork, does mass murals in LA, and recently he worked with a body of various hackers in San Francisco and created an AI system to create giant murals that people like. And then we have guys like Steve Gauster. I'm sure no one has heard of him. He's bridging the gap between cryptocurrency and doing good. So he has this thing called Tiger Coin. For every bot invested into the coin, allows you to reinvest that into reforestation, which helps endangered animals like the tiger within this region. And our lineup looks like this. We prioritize other pillars, like outside of music, on the same exact hierarchy. We look at the fact that people from the art scene, or food, or even wellness should be on the same category as musicians. We want to promote art. We want to promote good ideas. We want to work with people here locally that are thinking differently, that are challenging the norm in many different aspects. Because with both our businesses, that's all we do, and that's all we think about, actually. It seems to be paying off. I mean, last year was a really good breakout year for us. We're seeing customer review ratings go through the roof. We expect double our audience this year, around 20,000. We're just really happy with where it's going, but we have a really long way to go. Okay, so just to sum it up, and I hope I'm not over time. Perfect. It's such a transformational time here in Thailand. We talk about the digital economy, we talk about how people are connected, we talk about the amount of ideas that are coming, and the different spaces which are promoting ideas, such as what we do with Aziola and Wonderfruit. It's a really good time, and for us, we just hope that we can inspire you guys, whether it's the ideas on our platform or what we're doing on the festival level, to help celebrate your ideas and do something good as well with us. Do something good with? Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jon. I'm going to have you keep next. We're going to do some questions. We have a little bit of time, about a half hour for Q&A, and then there's a few announcements that I have to make. I see some hands going up, so I'm going to put this microphone, and we're going to crowd surf it. That's okay. I need you to have that one. But I'm going to start out as we try to get the microphone up there. Please, Jon, who is Calvin Harris? I live in 1986. I don't know what you're talking about. Can we send this back? There's a couple of gentlemen back here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. First of all, as a Thai person, thank you very much. I appreciate that you support Thai culture and trying to promote it in a better way and trying to actually inspire that. It's really inspiring. My question is that I'm very sure you face a lot of difficulties. What you find is the most difficult when you run the fundraising or something like that, and how did you solve that problem?
I think the fundraising challenge will differ from company to company or idea to idea. The biggest challenge we find in crowdfunding, and we've been seeing lately, is actually the communication, the sharing bit. Momentum is everything with crowdfunding. So if you're able to get to 10%, you're likely to get to 20%. If you get to 20%, you're likely to get to 50. 50, get to 70. And we've seen all our ideas that basically hit 50% or 60, get to 100. But in order to get that momentum, it's about being able to get your idea out there. So, we say we use our channels, but also the strongest channels are within your own personal network, and being able to communicate it in that way. You could have a great campaign story, you can have everything lined up on the page, but if people don't see it, you don't necessarily get the traction. So just to answer your question, what we find the biggest gap is to get people on board, and that's actually coming from the creator side of things. Yeah, no problem.
So, good morning. Thank you for your speech. So, talking about your startup, Asiola,
Okay.
what makes it different than things such as Kickstarter? And
Yeah,
then
good
second things, when I read your background, you were experienced in technology with UX and then
Yes.
IBM technology, and also you are a startup means like you must have like something that has to do with investing. And currently we know things such as blockchain. Blockchain means like cryptocurrencies. On this matter, I am talking about Bitcoin. A lot of people cannot really predict the Bitcoin price. It goes like very volatile. Last month, the Central Bank of China announced the banning of Bitcoin on their country, and then suddenly the Bitcoin price dropped like a frenzy, and now it bounced back again to like more than $5,000 per Bitcoin. As a technology engineer and as a businessman as well, what's your current thoughts about Bitcoin? What's your analysis about it? Thank you.
Cool. A lot of questions there. I'll answer the first one, and this is actually a commonly asked question that we get. What makes you different from Kickstarter? We view Kickstarter as more of as it turned into a very pre-ordered e-commerce system. I think the biggest difference from what we do versus them is we are only focused on local thought. We support local entrepreneurs. We only support Thai-based ideas that are doing things for Thai-based things. We also don't necessarily just go on e-commerce that says, hey, I want to sell the new phone or I want to sell the new gadget. I feel that's the way Kickstarter has kind of moved in the last coming years. We are focused primarily on creative impact and actually supporting ideas that have purpose and do things in Thailand, but do it creatively. And I think this is one of the biggest factors that we see, is that if you put necessarily any one of our campaigns on Kickstarter, you probably wouldn't get traction because they're so locally focused. They're focused on what you're doing here, the people that actually are influenced here, and we find relevance in that. So the local versus global thought is something that we hang on and differentiate from. Blockchain, okay. So that's interesting you brought it up because we are actually going to be ICOing a coin during Wonderfruit. We are working with, I don't know if you know the trading app Like. Basically, we're very much crypto fans. We actually are doing a blockchain pavilion at Wonderfruit, but I didn't know everyone's into crypto, so I didn't even touch on that. The way of view blockchain is, it's here. Like blockchain and Bitcoin necessarily, there's a lot of different ways that can do this in terms of the distributed ledger and how you decentralize the database. But we view crypto in a very different way. Crypto right now is just a currency that people trade and make money on, right? We view it that we want to get out of that space. So we created this thing called a tree coin that for every bot invested, we will plant a tree in the rainforest. And you act as a coin, which you can actually later invest it. So during Wonderfruit, at the blockchain pavilion, with the giant tree on it, you will be able to buy, trade, and do things around our new tree coin. And hopefully, given the volume that we have at Wonderfruit, we plan to ICO it. But this is the way it's good you brought that up because this is kind of the creative way we look at things. People look at blockchain as this infrastructure, and they look at Bitcoin or Ether or whatever it is, Neo, OMG, as ways to make money. We want to pair things together and do good. And this is where we take crypto and we actually do some good out of it by planting trees. And we'll see how that goes in the future. Okay, thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
You were saying that you, for Asiola, like you mainly focus on creative ideas, and if I have a creative idea, which I don't, but if I have, I would like be worried if my idea gets stolen, because like one of the easiest way to get your ideas stolen from people who were funded and are checking on website like that. Like, do you have any like things to ensure that my idea would not be stolen by anyone?
I mean, nowadays it's a sharing culture, right? And I hear what you're saying. You know, for us, we always think about the same thing as well. Like even me talking to you about Treecoin, it's something that we say, okay, can people replicate it? Can people copy the model of Wonderfruit? Can people copy the model of Aziola? And quite frankly, they might, they could, but from an ideas perspective, which means that it's from day zero, it's a concept, you're really pitching in, I have this thing, or I want to do this thing, do you guys want to come on board with me? From that conception to actually where it gets delivered and implemented and actually into the market is an entirely different thing. And I guarantee you, if we all had the same concept in here, and we all had the same brief about what this idea was, we would have entirely different executions at the end. Entirely different. And everyone would think about it differently. Because crowdfunding campaigns are necessary, you're building businesses here. You have an idea, you have a plan, and you try to execute it. Doesn't matter what the business plan is, the way people execute things is actually what separates other people from other people. And you know, I wouldn't actually worry about people stealing your idea because they'll do it totally different than how you envision it. So don't worry about others, follow your passion, and do what you feel is right.
Hey. So I was just wondering, with Wonderfruit, like in comparison with maybe other, festival groups that have been popping up around the world, maybe like Coachella, for example. I just want to ask, like, in terms of systems, business systems, how long and how sustainable would you say Wonderfruit will be in the long-term aspect?
Yeah. I think we view ourselves as Wonderfruit as merely a platform to push our sustainability thought and wrap it in a fun and creative way. It's a festival, and we view the physical space as a way to debut these types of ideas. Will it continuously stay that way? Probably not. We view a festival as one arm of our larger picture, moving towards media, moving towards content creation, doing things that are not just necessarily tied to the 4 days is really, really important. But the festival game is very competitive. Actually, we talk with the Coachella guys all the time. And there can only be one Coachella in the US, they tell us. There can only be one Coachella in Asia, right? We don't view ourselves as Coachella, just to level set, because we're not just music. But I think in order for longevity and scalability for the festival space, you have to be thinking on outside boxes. And that really means what can be done for the rest of the 361 years that you're not operating, right? And we talk about multiple events. We talk about creating our own media platform and company. There are a lot of things in the works. But we view this as the first stepping stone towards getting towards a larger picture.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello. Would you say there's a crowdfunding culture in Thailand? That's the first one. And second, what's the profile of the typical supporter of campaigns?
Cool. That's a good question. When we first started, there was no culture at all. I think we were pretty early in the sense we did it about a year and a half ago. We couldn't buy someone to contribute. No one understood it. We actually launched with all famous and well-known artists. And we thought in this Instagram culture and this the follow culture and being able to have celebrities and well-known names behind it, with some support, some growth, but it didn't actually. And we found that people with passionate, small ideas with small fan bases actually work so much better than that. Since then, when we first started, we had 0 ideas submitted for the first 6 months. No one would submit ideas, they didn't get inspired at all. Now, we're averaging 50 to 60 ideas that come in a month. We hit, like a couple months ago, we hit 100 ideas. Not all of these ideas are great ideas. I'm not saying they're blockbusters, but it's changing. People are feeling inspired and feeling that they can do things. And for us, that's everything. We don't say any idea is bad. It's just things you need to work on. And we encourage all these ideas. And just the fact that we see so much input coming in is a really good sign for us to say we're on the right path. But are we there? No, I think we're probably about 3 to 4 years from actually being critically accepted and having a reputation and getting it down the line for the masses to use. But we believe the culture is on the right pace. What was your second question? Sorry, I forgot.
What's the profile of the typical supporter
Sure.
of campaigns?
So basically, when we talk about demographics, we're talking around the 18 to 44 range, with a sweet spot within 18 and 34. We typically have skewed a little bit more female than males. Everyone spends their time on mobile devices these days, so and when we talk about product and UX and design, everything is catered towards that. Behavioral-wise, on our platform, we have a really high transaction rate. So we have about, for every single transaction, is about 3,200 baht, which is very high when you talk about e-commerce and the way it's benchmarked here in Thailand, which means that actually a lot of our contributors that come on are fairly affluent, because we don't have huge volumes of contributors, but we do have high transaction rates, which lends itself to actually a good volume. But for us, we want to move forward. We want to get everyone involved. We don't believe that, you should spend 3,000 baht or 2,000 baht on a single transaction. You should spend 100 baht or 50 baht if you want to. We want everyone to be included, and we don't care what price we get it at. We want to have people feel they can support, and our ultimate goal is to have creators feel that they can actually do something out of it. Okay.
Okay, how about a round of applause? Wow. How about just clap?
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to do the most cliched thing, which is to take a selfie with you guys. Okay.
Oh,
So
you're
you don't
you,
mind.
buddy. We take all kinds of pictures. Selfie
Hands
stuff.
up.
Do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Jon Lor, ladies and gentlemen. I have just a few quick comments here. John's left us with many lessons today, creativity, collaboration, confidence. I wanted to add in one other item, is that the collaboration, the interconnection. There's a lot of people here and not everybody knows each other, and sometimes a smile can lead to a conversation that could lead to a lifetime change. This entire event came about because Ajahn Albina and I were talking about recruiting Russian students, and I mentioned one thing and we acted upon it, and a month later we have this. So that's the power of what interconnections and ideas can do very quickly. So for you, I thank especially Ajahn Albina. I thank your team, John, for all of this, and Ajahn Jieb wanted me to remind the students that for those of you who have the diamond stamp option, they'll be available over there in the corner, right? And so that'll take place. And then again, to promote additional Creative Mornings, these occur every month, one Friday a month. We're leaning towards the 17th of November for the next one, although that will depend upon the speaker. But you are always welcome, always invited to come back to these events when they suit you, both for our industry personnel and for our students. And then lastly, you mentioned about skewing towards women. Just as a little piece of support, I study sports in the natural environment, and data that we have from American collegiate sport shows that women tend to be more engaged with sport and sustainability initiatives than men. So there's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear, but there's something going on. So I think we're going to have a gift for Jon, so a second round of welcomes, and then we're going to take a few pictures, I believe.